I'm here with Travis Smith, who's the leader of, or the head over spiritual care and bereavement at Hospice of Rutherford County. Now, Hospice of Rutherford County has many distinctions. They've set a lot of the MVI benchmarks over the years. For example, for many years, they've served over 50% of all deaths within their service area. They also have an average daily census over 150. And this is with a population that's just a little over 60,000 people, which is incredible. And they also have some of the highest volunteer percentages of any hospices in the United States. And these are remarkable accomplishments. And so, Travis, I mean, it's great to be sitting here with you.
It's great to be with you. Thank
you. I mean, just tell me about your background.
Well, I came to hospice really as a chaplain. That is when I came to hospice about 5 years ago now, to this hospice. And I came here from doing 10 years of full-time pastoral work and felt like I was looking for a change of direction in the work that I felt called to do. So I went to Carolina's Medical Center in Charlotte and did the CPE unit there and did their year-long process of residency, which left me where now I could be certified as a healthcare chaplain. And finished that residency and came directly here in December of 2006 to Hospice of Rutherford County. And been here ever since and worked, as I said, when I came here, our census was in the 80s. I was the only chaplain.
Yes.
And then we have grown from there in 5 short years to where you see us now, 150.
Yeah, and I think you've got to pay note to, again, this very large census in a relatively as a CON state, within 60,000 people, and just tremendous service penetration, over 50%.
Exactly.
And of course, you have the spiritual background, but then you also have bereavement. And that's something I really want to talk about.
Yeah, bereavement is the new area that I've really been working hard in the last couple of years, and have a lot of passion, a lot of desire to see that program excel. My concentration in my master's degree was pastoral counseling. Right. That's what I did, and really continued that in my work for Carolina's Medical Center. So coming here as chaplain was part of that, but I had the background of also pastoral care and counseling to bring to the table as well. So we made some changes now a couple of years ago in our bereavement department, and when those changes took place, we changed the way we do bereavement. And when we changed that, we saw some remarkable positive results.
So you credit some of the innovations and practices in bereavement with actually corresponding to some of the census or the perceived value from the community.
Exactly. What we had happen was, just to tell you briefly, was we decided that one of the things that we were getting less than 13% face-to-face visits with individuals who had passed away, their families, caregivers. We said that's not acceptable. We began to do our research. I found out we were probably closer to the 10% mark, and we just did not find that acceptable at all. One of the things we decided that would be a great change is to make contact with the families prior to the death, to begin a bereavement relationship with the families long before someone passes away, and then we go back to kind of continue that.
So really a pronounced anticipatory brief.
Exactly.
Or bereavement, or getting acquainted, the relationship being established. And
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, establishing that relationship in the front. Which was the change we made, and how we made it was we we combined the departments, spiritual care and bereavement combined, and we brought on high quality chaplains who also had background in care and counseling, who had that ability to come in here and do both spiritual care but also bereavement. So what happened was we have people seeing patients as chaplains.
Yes.
Well, they've already established a relationship with that family. Mm-hmm. So when the person passes away that we are serving, the client, the patient dies, then it is much more accessible for us to go back for follow-up visits because we have a relationship, we have a connection. So really our relationship continues to grow 13 months after even the patient's death.
Yeah, and it seems like it's such a no-brainer, but yet, a lot of hospices are very siloed, and you have this component and this component, and
exactly.
And you've taken a couple of them and integrated.
We did. We integrated them, and it has worked famously for us. I mean, we have went from 10% face-to-face visits to, in the last quarter, we had 64% face-to-face contact.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's been maintained. We've been over 50% face-to-face contact now for over close to coming up in 9 months. And we're very proud of that. We feel like
it's only a 500% increase.
Yeah, you just do the numbers, right? And we're not haughty about that. We just feel like that was a change that it's all about the patient and the family. It comes back to how do we best serve them. Yeah. And we found out establishing a relationship.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think a lot of hospices, you have this question. I mean, would you call this hospice a spiritually oriented hospice, or that gravitates that way? Sure. Or I mean, some hospices, to me, have become quite vanilla, and sometimes the spiritual and even bereavement areas have been watered down or minimalized.
Exactly. I think one thing we have to understand our culture here. In Rutherford County, we predominantly Christian Protestant culture. And because of that, we already have a relationship built in as chaplains. We have some, I like to call it, we have some money in the bank. People kind of trust us. And that's a positive thing.
Well, yeah.
And that's what our hospice thrives on. We are oriented toward faith values. That's what we feel like we were kind of founded around, and we've continued to live out that philosophy in what we do. Now, having said that, the key word there is that we are grounded in faith values, meaning not Protestant, not Catholic, not Christian, not Hindu, not Muslim. We're really founded in the value of faith, and whatever that means for the patient and that family, or the lack of.
Yeah, not forcing any belief system on.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just looking, our goal as chaplains and bereavement counselors is to find out what resources do you have? What are your resources? Once we identify those resources, then we look to enhance those and build upon them, whatever that means for you. What do you find hope? What do you find value in? If we can identify that, we have something to work with.
Let me ask you this. In this, I'm directing it specifically towards bereavement.
Sure.
What do you think are some of the most effective techniques, methods, for bereavement counselors or bereavement experts?
Exactly. I think what we're really clear on these days is we're moving away from any stage model of grief. When someone, years ago, we got into the stages of grief, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and wonderful writings. And the mistake that was made, quite honestly, was, and even Kubler-Ross came back and said this, the mistake was that people felt you went through these in a linear fashion. We know you do not. We know that it's more circular in nature. You go through them and you come back. You may go through one and move to another one and then come back. So it's not unlike, and this is an analogy that I often use, it's not unlike walking down or up a spiral staircase. At any given moment, you can touch where you were. You're always that close to your stage of,
because we were talking about that just before. It's just even how a smell or a song or something will
exactly. We have what we call in grief work STUGs, which is what that means is temporary upsurges of grief.
STUGs.
It's a technical term. Subsequent temporary upsurges of grief. And what that means is there's stimulus cued STUGs, which are cued from our memory base. We hear something, we see something, we smell something. And all of a sudden, we have a grief reaction, maybe as dynamic or as powerful as the day someone passed away or shortly after. It can be that pronounced.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's what, now the difference is, and the key word in that is that it's temporary upsurge. Subsequent temporary upsurge of grief. We know that it's temporary, it's not going to last forever, but that's it. Stimulus cued means that it is brought to the surface by our emotional connection to a memory. And memories are really driven in us by many fashions, by sight, sound, taste, smell, the senses. Another type of STUG that we see is kind of a linear STUG in the sense that you get to a hallmark in life. Let's say your father died at 52 and you're approaching your 52nd birthday. That can trigger that as well.
Sure.
So there's two different types.
Well, let me ask you this, and with bereavement and grief, a lot of times the word coping is used a lot, and is coping the right way we should look at this, or I mean, can it be viewed as really a transcendence, or just part of the, I mean, the way life is that, we have these losses, and I guess it depends on a person's philosophy or view of the world, but really coping sometimes has this baggage that, geez, forever I'm going to be
labeled.
Or live in this pit or whatever. And I don't know if that's really the, having had my own, losses, I don't want to, I personally don't want to be there. I mean, to me, transcendence and letting it, chisel the marble to make a better, I mean, how do you look at that as far as coping versus?
As far as transcending. I think it all is, as you said, it depends on the individual and what their outlook is. We know that certain personality types deal with grief differently, and some we have found will move forward in more positive ways. What we do know, though, is that if someone does not try to avoid their grief, if they do not try to avoid it, and we often tell people, you do not get over grief, you work through grief. And I believe with all my heart, with working through grief, you can get to that place of transcendence. You can get to that place where not only have you reestablished a relationship with someone who has passed away, but you can move forward now, establish new and healthy relationships, and build upon what you've experienced. And to me, that's transcendence. And I like that, because coping sounds like, though, as you're chronically
it's like I'm screwed. I mean, this is
it for me.